The birth of a baby is one of the most beautiful gifts that life has to offer. Seeing it grow inside the womb, be born, grow up, and then become an adult is the most amazing thing that can happen to a couple. But when a child is born with a deformity, what was originally supposed to be a happy event quickly turns into a real nightmare. Make yourself comfortable, because today you will see once again that life can be more surprising, more unpredictable, and more incredible than you thought. And if you didn't believe in miracles before, you'll soon change your mind. And if you like this video, don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all notifications. Let's go. Look at this little angelic face. He's beautiful, isn't he? Well, this child might never have been born if his mother hadn't listened to her maternal instincts. This is the story of Noah Wall, the miracle baby. A fetus like no other. Shelley and Rob Wall are from Abbeytown, a village in the northern English state of Cumbria. In 2011, the couple was looking forward to the arrival of their child. But unfortunately, the family was struck by a tragedy. The doctor who was monitoring Shelley's pregnancy told them one day that their fetus was not like any other fetus. The ultrasounds and X-rays taken of the pregnant woman showed that the fetus was suffering from a severe abnormality. The baby was going to be born with only 2% of its brain. So its chances of survival were infinitely reduced. Thus, the experts who were following this very particular case had proposed 5 times to the 44-year-old pregnant woman to terminate her pregnancy. In other words, they had clearly explained to her that her baby had a very low chance of survival and that it was better to abort to avoid the worst. Listening only to her heart, the mother still decided to decline the advice and continue the pregnancy. She had been interviewed on Good Morning Britain about her refusal to have an abortion and her determination to continue the adventure, despite the complications they would face. The emotional mother replied that she and her husband were already relatively old and that Noah was perhaps their last chance to conceive. If younger parents had been offered this choice, they might have felt compelled to do so, but we knew how we felt and we are positive people. We wanted to give Noah a chance to live, she said. In 2012, Shelley gave birth to a beautiful baby, Noah Wall. But unfortunately, the doctors were not mistaken about his abnormality. The newborn did suffer from spina bifida syndrome and congenital hydrocephalus. Science Minute. Hydrocephalus is a very serious neurological abnormality, which consists of the accumulation of excess cerebrospinal fluid in the brain causing an abnormal increase in the size of the skull. Thus, the pressure exerted by the fluids can prevent the brain from forming properly since it has very little space to develop. Unfortunately, children from intermarriage are 13 times more likely to develop hydrocephalus. Spina bifida, however, is a genetic degeneration of the spinal cord, brain or meninges, linked to a defect in the closure of the neural tube in the child's posterior. In particular, this disease affects the lumbosacral nerves, which are responsible for digestive motility, bladder and anal control, and genital functions. Spina bifida, which is very common in Western babies, usually occurs during the 4th week of the embryo's life, or when the couple conceives a child at an advanced age. In the case of Shelley and Rob, they were both in their late 40s. Of course, this is still speculation since science, despite its great progress and exponential development, has not yet been able to explain the exact causes of spina bifida. Several in-depth medical studies and research have been carried out to find out the source of this anomaly. Scientists have put forward certain environmental, nutritional, and genetic factors of the mother that could be at the origin of this malformation. Others have linked the anomaly with the fact that the mother does not take folic acid as a supplement during the first trimester of pregnancy. To this day, no one is yet able to explain exactly what causes the neural tube closure to stop. In other words, it is still a great mystery to medicine. In Noah's case, the X-rays had detected a dysfunction between spina bifida and hydrocephalus from the beginning of the pregnancy. The combination of these two medical complications had condemned the child to be born without brains, or at least to have only 2% of its brain functions. With all these birth defects, the doctors were adamant that little Noah would live very little. Not wanting to give the parents any hope, the medical profession advised them to prepare for the hardest of separations. When reality overcomes fiction, of course, you can imagine that the news would have devastated the couple at the time, who had not yet had time to enjoy the happiness of becoming parents. They wanted this child more than anything else, so much so that they didn't want to believe what the doctors were saying. Even so, they had no choice but to prepare for the loss of their baby. The mother had confided that as soon as Noah was born, they had started to organize his funeral. They even bought a small coffin. The doctors had made it clear that the baby's chances of survival would not be months or years, but rather days. Noah had undergone surgery at birth, during which the open wound on his back was closed. He had also had a shunt, a kind of device to dry out the fluid in his brain. After a long, agonizing time and intensive care, the parents brought their child home and covered him with love all day long. And that's when the miracle happened. Incredible as it may seem and against all odds, little Noah continued to grow. His brain had followed and started to grow in volume over time. Thus, his name was recognized as an exceptional case of a child born without a brain, whose physical and intellectual development continued to progress. An impressive evolution. At age 3, a CT scan of Noah's brain showed that his brain had grown to 80% of the size of a normal child's brain. 3 years later, little Noah was able to talk, walk, and play. Better than that, Noah's development had taken a more than favorable course according to his doctors, and Noah's family had something to do with it. His parents had helped him a lot, especially by stimulating his brain to the maximum to contribute to his neurological development. Dr. Claire Nicholson, one of the neurosurgeons following Noah to Newcastle Children's Hospital, described him as a remarkable boy with remarkable parents. To say the least, it takes a Herculean amount of courage. Noah is described as an ever-smiling little boy who gives and receives a lot of love and empathy. Over time, he has learned to read, write, and count a little bit like all little boys his age. Even though he has had to undergo several operations, his brain development has exceeded even the wildest of expectations. It's unbelievable. An exceptional case explained by science. If Noah's case is considered an exceptional case, it is because everyone was betting that the child would succumb a few days after birth. Tests and X-rays at the time showed that there was an excess of fluid in the baby's skull, well above the normal amount of gray matter. His skull was barely the size of a grapefruit. In such cases, the statistics are clear. Children with abnormally underdeveloped brains always end up dying after birth, and babies born with severe neurodevelopmental problems very rarely reach adolescence. But what has made Noah a miraculous little boy is the phenomenon of neuroplasticity. This medical term refers to the brain's ability to modify, create, undo, or reorganize the networks and connections of its neurons. The brain is also capable of physically adapting to any situation and developing in a way that ensures survival. It is not a matter of containing the greatest number of neurons, but rather of organizing them in the best possible way. It is a computer program output that each one of us naturally has at our disposal. This allows us to face completely new problems each time. It is a fact that shows once again, the incredible character of the human body, and the extreme complexity of the brain. Noah Wall is not the only child born with brain malformations. In the state of Virginia in the United States, a little girl named Michelle Mack was born with half a brain. The most surprising thing about this little girl's story is that her abnormality was not detected until she was 27 years old, after leading an absolutely ordinary life. She graduated and would even have an extraordinary ability to memorize. Noah, a blossoming little boy today. Today, 8 years after his birth, little Noah is a very happy, fulfilled, and above all healthy child. He is endowed with an exceptional gentleness, and an unconditional and contagiously good mood, a real sunshine. From the top of his few centimeters, Noah fought to live and defied all the laws of medicine and science. Our little fighter even succeeded in proving all the doctors who took care of his case. Even though he still faces some minor health problems, the fact that he is very well surrounded by his family makes him determined to achieve all his goals. If that's not tenacity. So, what do you think of this miraculous little boy? What would you have done in his mother's place? Tell us in the comments.